I notice when I see this, like in my head, is that these points, negative 2.4 and 0 and 0.8 and 0, they have 0 as the second number. That means that those are my zeros. Very good. Those are my zeros. So I'm going to look for the one that says, hey, write this in factored form because that's my zeros. Oh, look, that's the first one. And for right now, leave the A alone. So in letter A, I can write it as y equals A times x plus 2.4 parentheses x minus 0.8. Because I look at the things where they give me the numbers in those parentheses, and in the parentheses I write them as the opposites of what I saw. Those are the zeros. In case that's not clear, that's where I'm crossing the x-axis. So here's one of my points, here's the other point. That was this point and this point. Those are my zeros. So I use that for my factored form. Sorry. In part B, I'm now going to substitute the number 1.2 and negative 2.592 into my equation and see what happens. So they give me an additional point. Here it is. That's this point down here, or in other words, right here on my graph. And I'm going to take that point which lies on the graph and I'm going to substitute that into the red equation so that I can find my A. Now this is not something you can necessarily do very well by hand. This is something I personally would definitely use a calculator for. So what that means is, up in the red equation, I see the number negative 2.592. I write that down. Negative 2.592. And then I see that that's equal to A times, and then I take that number for the x value, which is the 1.2 in that coordinate, and I put it in for the x values. 1.2 plus 2.4. And then I put it again in the second parentheses, 1.2 minus 0.8. And I solve this equation. So this equation, when you solve it, you would have to multiply these numbers together and figure out what's going on. So I'm going to continue on with this so you can kind of see how it works out. So I have negative 2.592 equals A times 1.2 plus 2.4 is 3.6. And 1.2 minus 0.8 is 0.4. So all I've done is work with the stuff that was inside of those parentheses and added them together. Then I take those two numbers, the 3.6 and the 0.4, and I multiply them. So 3.6 times 0.4, and I get 1.44. So this means I have 1.44a equals negative 2.592. I would have to then divide both sides by that 1.44 to find my A. So this is kind of annoying, but that's what happens. Negative 2.592 divided by 1.44 on my calculator tells me that I get negative 1.8. Which kind of makes sense when you think about it, because the negative sign tells me that I'm opening Thank you, Grant. The negative sign says that I'm opening down. So this information was that I'm now writing down a completed function in its factored form. All that means is that that red equation now turns into the pink equation, y equals negative 1.8 parentheses x plus 2.4 parentheses x minus 0.8. So all you've done is found the A value. A lot of algebra to do that A value. There you go. So in letter C, I've already shown you how to do this in your calculator. In letter C, what you're going to do is you're going to take and place whatever you found for your B equation in your y1 of your calculator. And after you do that and you graph it, you're going to find the vertex. And in this case, you need the maximum value in order to do that, because the vertex on this graph over here on the right-hand side, probably should put that in a highlighted green. My vertex is the maximum or the highest point on the parabola. So if I go into my calculator and I go into my y equals and I type in my function, the one we just found, which we found as y equals, was it negative 1.8? So negative 1.8 parentheses x plus 2.4 parentheses times parentheses x minus 0.8. And I graph that, I will see my parabola that I had in my notes, and I want to find that maximum value, the top of the parabola, the vertex. So I go second, window, nope, that's not what I wanted, second, trace, because that gives me my calculate, but now I don't want the minimum, I want the maximum. I hit enter. It'll ask me for the left bound, that means take your blinker and go to the left of the mountain. So I arrow to the left, and I hit enter. Then it says go to the right of that mountain, the right bound, and I hit enter. And then it says guess, so I go to the top of the mountain, and I hit enter. And it tells me that I get negative 0.799999996, which we know is the same as negative 0.8, and that my y value is 4.608. So when I go back into my notes now, and I write down my maximum, which is my vertex, that color really is not so great, sorry. My vertex is going to be whatever showed up on my calculator, which is negative 0.8, comma, what was the other number? 4.608, thank you. So this is letter C. And then in letter D, I'm not going to go through all the algebra of how to find that, but it says write it in, oh actually we already did that. Write it, oh no we didn't. Write it in its vertex form. That basically means take the pink equation and rearrange it so it looks like the vertex form. So when you rearrange it so it looks like the vertex form, actually there's a better way to do it. Here's the way I would do it. Let me just take that back and say it a different way. The way that I would do it is, we know that we want something in vertex form to look like this. This is D. Y equals A parentheses x minus h squared plus k. The h and the k is what we just found. This stuff, h and k, come from here. So I'll just use that. So now I can just write it as y equals, what was our a value? Negative 1.8. And then I have x minus something, and it's x minus negative 0.8, which means I actually have plus 0.8, and that's squared, and then plus 4.608. This ending answer here that I see in the yellow highlight is my vertex form of my parabola. Y equals negative 1.8 parentheses x plus 0.8 squared plus 4.608. And I found that because I just got done finding my vertex, which was my maximum value area.